All right, that was a quick one. Hey, we're live. I didn't want to waste any moments just waiting for the long intro.
Yes.
Well, and so for anybody new here, I'm Tanya Bugby, real estate and business coach, consultant. We got Karen Henson, who's a phenomenal realtor and broker, Charlotte in the mortgage industry, who's a phenomenal team leader. And at some point, ladies, I need to put your profession next to your names. Yes, and I will change the banner so all of our names get on there too. So that'll cover you too. So part of that's on me. Hey, Teresa. But we always have such live conversations on the back end before we go live, and sometimes those are such phenomenal conversations that I sometimes, maybe next time I'm going to click go live while we're talking backstage and not even do the intro so we don't get interrupted.
Yeah, just keep going.
Yeah. So if you're new here, thank you. If you don't want to comment, you're not pressured to comment, but the only way we know you're here is if you do comment. So if you want to say, who you are, where you're from, if you want to say hi, then we know you're here and we can add you to the conversation if you so choose. But however, our conversation in the back was so exciting over, where we are today in real estate, right? We've gotten through the elections, we're here, and there's a lot of fake news out there. There's some real news out there. And so what is the state of affairs now that here we are? And Rachel too. Nice to see both you ladies again today. So Charlotte, you first. State of affairs. Now that we're kind of got through a major event in our lives, where are you? Where are we?
We've been doing some business planning and getting ready for our big team business planning event. One thing that I'm just seeing is I feel like we're all pretty optimistic. We're hearing news about 2025 expectations for rates. We don't expect them to go like to the floor or anything, but we're not expecting them to continue raising, which is what we would like them not to raise anymore. That would be awesome. So we're kind of in this point where if you look at the historical data for the birth rate, which is a lot of times when we see the booms in the market, Mary Habib, all the big people that know much more than I know are predicting a pretty decent year next year. So it's kind of exciting seeing just the team set these pretty big goals. Everybody's got a goal to beat what they did this year, and this year was a good year for them. So I'm excited to see that, and that's kind of the news that we're feeling. I know that's odd because the time of year is a slower time of year and people sometimes freak out. But it's been really cool seeing those projections. And I think they're not setting these pie in the sky goals. They're setting realistic goals based on what they're feeling and seeing in the market, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yes. And we are past the election. So that excuse of people aren't buying because of the elections and we're waiting to see and we're glued to the TV, right? We can't use that as an excuse anymore.
Right.
No.
Yeah. So what are you seeing and sensing, Karen, out there with not just clients, your realtors in your brokerage, but also your clients? What's the state of affairs for you?
Well, I think we've had a lot of things coming together at once for us this year. One of them being that the rates are a little more stable and predicted to go down a bit. And as Charlotte, mentioned, not to the floor like before, but at least, it's an area where it's actually comfortable. It used to be considered a low rate, right at around 6. So I think we have that going on. The other thing that we have happening, we had when the pandemic came, we had people moving that didn't necessarily have a life event that encouraged them to move, right? So we fast forwarded some people moving for retirement because they could work remote. So they went ahead and moved to the Sunbelt state ahead of time. We had people that went ahead and got the larger house sooner than they would have because they could work away from the office in an area that was more affordable. And so in doing that, then we also have these last couple of years where we didn't have those life events moving people anymore because it was a premature move, right? So that is seemingly kind of evened out. So it happened, and then we had a couple of years where not a lot of it happened, and it's time again. It's time for life events to start moving people, and I think we're going to see that. And when you couple that with where the rates are right now, people that have had some life events that have been pending moving because they're in such a great rate are beginning to realize that they can't live in the rate. They have to live in the house, right? So you stay in a great rate for a couple of years because it's a great rate. And at some point that house is either too small, too big, wrong place. And suddenly you have to start talking about it. So, kind of along the lines of what Charlotte was talking about backstage was, really being that voice for clients and helping them see that although they're going to leave a great rate, there's a lot more out there. There's a better house, a better location, and still a decent rate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And I know, so I'm going to share the state of affairs in the coaching world. I will share that on Wednesday after the election, I had more SOS calls on that day than any other day that I've had in my coaching career, including the day we had stay-at-home orders, which I had a lot of SOS calls when we had when Governor Newsom said we're staying at home, right? And then my phone's ringing off the hook. My phone was ringing off the hook the day after the elections because of the results and fear. However, it was just the one day, and now it seems like we're all back to work and focusing on our business plan and whatever it is, real estate, lending, roofing. I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, coaching, whatever it is, because I had a call like that with one of my clients. It never came up, right? It's kind of like we're back to doing what's in our control.
Right. As I say, the things that we can actually control, like that's
right. And oh, sorry, Charlotte, go ahead.
That was it.
So I think that it makes a lot of sense. I do my very best to keep all of that kind of stuff separate from what's going on in my business. However, it's really difficult now with social media, everything. It is everywhere. So it is really hard, I think, for people to avoid feeling like it had a more eminent impact than it did, right? Because once it was over, all the commercials went away, all the social media stuff went away. And so all of a sudden it was like, wow, I can focus on something else.
Yeah. For the most part, I still see some really nasty posts. I'm like, okay, your guy won. Why are we still posting all this nasty stuff about the other person? I mean, it's not over for some people, but that's the minority. I agree. Because I like this morning, I'm looking through my phone going, okay, enough already. Let's move on. But that's the minority, not the majority. So I agree. Social media makes things so like this. So people who are very specific and see the here and now and not the bigger picture, which again is not a negative statement. It's just how we're wired. But the folks that just see the here and now, a lot of that's gone. So they can.
That's the case for either side. I'm in a much more right state, and during that time, even the day after, there was just so much emotion, and regardless of which side you were on, you were on those sides, whatever, it was like we were so caught up in it that after like a day or two, I think everybody was like, oh, I can actually work now. Like,
right. Or I better work now.
I don't have to think about politics. I don't have to see as much politics, which is fantastic in my life. I'm all for that. So it was good.
Funny. One of my clients is like, I better sell some more homes because I might not have Social Security in a year. And I'm like, well, okay, let's go sell some more homes.
Whatever it takes to motivate
Whatever it takes for you to do your goal.
Speaking of motivating, this time of year we're working on our goals and talking to the team about their goals, and it's fun, right? Because everybody's dreaming and making all of these lists. And so then we started getting into talking a little bit more about how are you going to keep going with this? How are you going to keep this motivation? And we got into a conversation about wow, I almost said prostitution. I don't know where that came from. Procrastination.
That's one way of selling houses. I mean,
sometimes procrastination. And I was, that's a good one. Listening to someone talk about creating a hope list, something you're looking forward to doing, things that I get to do, and all the way down to like the little things, right? Like maybe have ice cream tonight after dinner or whatever. And then if we focus on those things that we want to do or we get to do, whether it be an immediate gratification or, delayed gratification, that it makes putting off those tasks that we don't want to do a little bit easier. And I thought that was such a great way to look at it. Instead of just, do it, just eat that frog, just do it. That was more putting this focus somewhere else. I thought it was really good. So we're all kind of working on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yes. And, just focusing on our goal. So today I had the Move the Needle workshop and it was phenomenal. And Rachel was on it and Teresa was on it. And I had maybe this time 50% of the 12 people that were on it were people I didn't know. So that was awesome, right?
Awesome.
So it was really fun today to have some newbies. So, hey, David, I am going to do a shout out for my clients because the Move the Needle is open for the public. And we start to set, like give me one specific goal and we're going to help each other set specific tactics to hit the goal. And a shout out to my clients. They had such an easy time coming up with 6 to 10 tactics, right? And let's pick 2 or 3, but let's come up with tactics. And the ones that were new, which is awesome, right? So we're teaching new techniques to new people. Most of them didn't even know what a tactic was. Right. And then what do you mean by a tactic or a system? And then, we start coming up with some tactics, but the self-limiting beliefs and the lack of being able to set a tactic was really eye-opening for so many people that were on that call that just couldn't do it. And then after this workshop had at least 2 solid tactics that I hope they put in their calendar, because that was part of it. Like, now put this in your calendar, right? But a shout out to the people that were there that are working with me. It was easy for them. I'm not saying executing is easy, hinting, right? But at least the first piece of this, of setting the goal, having the plan, setting the tactics, putting it in your calendar, that piece was just so smooth for most of the people I coach. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yay.
I'm doing different with our team is my word for 2025 I've decided is alignment, because I feel like just getting all of the things in alignment. And Karen, you said something.
I was telling it to Karen that we talk about your values and alignment on every coach call. Right? I was telling her.
One of the things that we're doing is, a lot of people have done the wheel of life, like where you rank yourself. But for our business planning, I want them to also feel like they're in alignment, so that they're working towards the right things, right? So kind of like what you said, the hope list, we're starting with, at the end of 2025, if you were really happy in your fun and activity bucket, what did you get done? What did you do in 2025? Kind of triggering that. It's kind of a bucket list, but maybe it's even just, I went and had ice cream, like you just said, with my family once a week, or whatever that looks like. But I want them to start with that, right? And then I'm starting in that point, and then we're going to grow into, okay, then what does it look like financially for your financial goals? What did you do? And then going into the business goals, because if we're not starting with what's really important to you, and if you don't know what's really important to you, then we've really got to get our balance back in, right? So we're starting there. But I think that hope list was kind of similar to what we're doing there, which is just, what do you want for fun? Fun is, no, I know it's my word, but
it's okay.
I say it so much, but I need to find a better word.
Yeah, what brings them joy? Right. And I think that's such a great way to start. And Tanya has, talked to us several times before, what is your why? And sometimes I feel like that should be way up here. Like it should just, be just so profound. And yet actually it should be all those things that are in that joy bucket.
The journey, right? It's the journey.
Yeah.
We say that, we think that, but then we focus on this big why. But the reality is, if we have crap, I'm going to clean up my language. If we have crap for 4 years to try to achieve this why, that's not fun. There's got to be joy in the journey. 100%.
There has to be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I know you ladies know I have a phrase for my life that's more private. So I'm saying it's more private, and here I am talking about it on the live. But I have had this phrase, and I'd be shocked if neither of you knew it, or if once I say it, it's going to remind you, right? But I have clients who have sent me gifts around this phrase, and I've had it since I was 50. And every year I say I'm going to change my phrase, but I never change it because it's more important to me every single year as I get older. So my phrase for my personal life, and I'll keep it cleaner since we're going live, but it's, what the F are you waiting for, Tanya? Right? And so I'm not changing it because every year it gets bigger and bigger and it means more. And then, so with Charlotte's word being alignment, my word for 2024, since we're still here, is and will have been elevate. That was my word for this year. And then I came up with it last week, which is late for me, but I finally came up with the word. It's more of a phrase, and it's do bullshit. And that's what it is for 2025. Because there's things I've been kind of holding back on. And then true story, as I say, I said my word was do bullshit. It was that day, Charlotte and Karen, or the day after, where someone reached out to me and said, I love your content. I love your stories. Will you be one of our guest speakers?
Uh-oh.
We've lost it, Tanya.
Lost
What are we gonna do?
Well, when the cat's away, the mice can play.
Yeah, right. Oh, so
Like, we lost Tanya. We lost Tanya.
And then you ladies disappear. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not taking this personally.
That's so funny.
But I don't believe in coincidences, right? Right. Yeah. So Karen, you have your word phrase. Any comments around that?
I don't have it yet because, well, I can tell you what it's execute, but I'd like to find a different word for it. Mm-hmm. So that's
I wanted to go deeper, like like do bullshit is exeking, right? So yes, I love execute. I'm not, but it's
executing with flair.
Yes.
Yeah, I just feel like that is just so very boring and not me.
And it can't be execute with care, because I know you're a walking Care Bear already. So yes.
Yeah. So
did you guys have Care Bears, or is that like you didn't have kids during Care Bear season? Do you remember Care Bears?
I do remember them. I was in between being a kid and having kids.
Yeah.
But I do remember them.
Yeah. Yes. And Rachel, yes, the do bullshit or whatever your word is needs to be tattoo worthy. Yeah. Yeah. So there's I don't know if you've been, I have had this gal come and do workshops for you guys who does the guided meditations. Mm-hmm. She had a post on LinkedIn, and she had the Care Bear, where the Care Bears had this Care Bear where their stomachs would all light up at the same time.
The Care Bear stare.
Thank you, Care Bear stare. Right, that was her post today, and it was just like, it so resonated. But Karen has that already built in. She doesn't need a Care Bear button; it's there. So we need something else.
So instead of execute, it should be killer.
Yes.
There we go. Oh, that's awesome. That's a great twist.
Yes, and Rachel, execute is her first rough draft. Yes.
Yeah. Well said, Rachel. Yes.
So if you're still like Rachel, everybody, Taylor, Teresa, David, anybody on here, if you want to post your word or phrase, go for it. We want to hear it. Put it out into the universe. We'll help it get pushed out. Nice. Yeah. So yeah, real estate is still alive and well, even after the elections and everything else, the holidays. Yep. I want to shout out that I am and was a client a few weeks ago when I went and got pre-approved. Right. And I'm like, oh, this isn't fun. I don't like people looking at my personal finances. Right. However, I got pre-approved, Charlotte. It happened.
Very good. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah.
I think we should all experience being clients in our online work, which I know you do all the time, Tanya, because you have a coach, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I think it's really important for us to remind ourselves of what our clients are actually doing.
Yes. And so I totally 100% agree, 200% agree that a realtor needs to go and sell their home and then go through the process and realize that it is stressful.
It is stressful.
It is not a lot of fun to have to move and then have people in your personal space and personal finances and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of, I want to reframe and not say it's yucky, but it is not what we all sign up for.
Right.
Same thing with the lending process and having somebody say, Tanya, I want to see your last tax returns. And like, oh, you're a small business owner. Your tax returns aren't favorable. So obviously we had to get creative because, I don't want the IRS here listening, but yes, I do have small business owner tax returns.
Right.
Right off everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. I would say that whenever I go through the process of getting a mortgage, I typically, unless it's not a state that we're licensed in, I do it through my company, and which is wonderful because I know exactly what to expect. So I do like that. But the getting the documentation together, I always tell people this is the least fun part. Like, it's not fun to get documentation together, and I don't care how organized you are, it's still a pain, because even if you're completely electronic and have it filed, you still have to go through and get it all, and sometimes it's not the right thing. So like, there is a lot of empathy here, because as somebody that's not organized, I am my worst client. Like, 100% I'm my worst client. Actually, can I tell you a story? This is really funny.
Yeah.
I did a refinance back in the refinance boom, and the girl in my office did it for me. And we're about a week and a half away from close, and I said yes to a store discount card.
Wow.
No, it wasn't a store discount. It was a interest free. It was a 0 interest for 18 months with no transfer fee. Like, you never see that. I'm like, I'm doing that. And I did it. And like at 3:00 in the morning, I went, oh, shoot.
You are now the poster child.
And I just opened a new line of credit. And I'm a lender. So guys, it can happen to anybody.
Well, that's pretty funny, because we always at our buyer consultation, we have that conversation. We remind them somewhere along the line, and then as it gets toward the end, we impress upon it more, because that's when they're sofa shopping and appliance shopping. But knowing that, I think I'm going to add like 2 more touches during the transaction. Make sure I repeat it about every 5 days.
No, you have to, because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I want to trade in my car. And I'm like, Tanya, what are you thinking? This is not the time.
This is not the time to do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Give me your wallet.
So yes, it just happens without even thinking. And
You don't even think about it. Yeah.
No.
Which I'm going to give some props. I mean, that was because it was so seamless with the company. It was so easy. I didn't even realize I was in the middle of a refinance.
Good recovery. Good recovery. I
have a really funny story, but I want to do mine after Karen. So thinking about your clients, I know I can think of a few, but I'm not going to hint you in any direction. Do you have any aha moments, learn stories, funny stories about any of your realtors right now and what they're learning with buying and selling homes?
Well, yeah. We have someone that got very excited and jumped the gun in terms of, putting a lot of her own time and energy into a transaction that wasn't really ready to be a transaction yet.
Yeah.
And I'm right there with her, as far as I've done the same thing before. It's something that you learn over time, but basically somebody's not, in a situation where they can legally sell this property, and the photographer's already been out there taking photos, right? So went from, step 1 to step 9, like super fast. So
yeah, and it's all out of excitement, right? And wanting
totally.
to provide good customer service and not stepping back in.
Yes,
I know.
And that's the one thing I have to say, and that's where the focus has really been, is that the great piece of this is that you are so engaged and you're so ready to offer this kind of service. And you're not waiting for people to call you back. You're taking the bull by the horns and leading it. It just wasn't quite ready to leave the pin. So it'll get there.
So I want to go there for a minute before I share my story, because I've had this happen twice now today, or between yesterday and today, this happened twice with my clients. And coincidentally, they're both in the real estate profession, and they both either missed a coach call or the workshop I held today. Oops, sorry. Because they jumped. Right. So like, my client wanted to list the home, and they wanted it listed in 24 hours. And so, I'm skipping my call, I'm skipping the workshop. I am now jumping and did list the home in 24 hours, which, and again, I want your guys' opinion. And maybe it's different in the lending industry. You do want to jump on it when they say it, but do you feel that's professional versus having more control over the runway versus having no runway? What's your opinion on that?
I think there are very few exceptions where I would jump. I mean, it would have to be something that that I feel absolutely had to happen tomorrow, not the client feeling that, right?
Yeah.
And I think I would have to make it very clear that this is not the normal way, the normal process, right?
Yeah.
Because things are going to get missed. It's not going to come out the way that it should come out. And most agents and lenders are already booked for today and tomorrow, right? So,
or photographers. And if they're not, I'm kind of questioning it, right?
Yeah, I was trying to not make judgment about our
I
own.
don't want to judge because
No,
I've
but
done it. I've been there, done that. But my runway, like when I was full-time in real estate, successful realtor, I would take more control and say, look, my photographer goes out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So yes, I can get your home listed by Wednesday, but not tomorrow.
Right.
And I want to make sure it's staged properly, that, you know, the toilet seat's down and you have stuff off your counters, or I can rush the whole process, but they're not going to be happy.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the thing, right? Even just getting inside of the house and seeing what actually needs to be done. You know, are there paint touch-ups that need to be done? All these things that we know, and that's why we're being hired. And maybe the client doesn't really understand that. So yeah, like I said, it would have to be a really special circumstance.
Yeah. So what about in your profession, Charlotte? What if I say I want to be pre-approved, would you jump on it and have me send it to you that day?
Immediately. Yeah. No,
Yeah. And that's the way the Lennar handled it. It was like, here you go, within 5 minutes.
Yeah. With lending, we don't need that much of a runway to do the pre-approval, right? I mean, that's the thing. But what you're saying reminds me a little bit more of a credit work. So this does happen to where we've pulled credit now. We've pulled credit, and maybe there's a little bit of work that needs to be done to get them to where they're ready to buy, but they don't listen. Like 95% of them don't listen, and they still go out and look at properties, and the realtors still show them properties, even though we said we're doing credit work. They're 30 days away.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with one of my teammates just yesterday. She's like, why don't they listen? I'm like, well, because we come through. I mean, that's the reality. Because we don't.
I'm good at what I do.
Because we do it, right? So they did. They will go in and we'll give them a credit work, and then sometimes they will want to make an offer and they're not done with the credit work. And that is very touchy because sometimes they've even done it and it's just a matter of the time period happening, right? Which 98% of the time you're totally fine, but there is that small percentage of time where it doesn't work. So very rare circumstances will we actually go ahead and write the pre-qualification. Most of the time I'm putting in the notes in the pre-qualification, you know, subject to credit rescore coming back, something like that, if they'll allow me to do that.
Yeah.
But, and they do get pushy. I mean, I've had to have some real heart-to-hearts with people like, I'm going to give you this pre-qual, but here's the deal. I'm going to call the listing agent and let them know that it's made on toilet paper, right? That's what you're asking for. I mean, that's the reality. Like, you're pushing me to do something that I'm not comfortable with unless all parties understand. And sometimes they're cool. Like, that's, again, when you work with a lender who can make chicken salad out of chicken poo on a pretty regular basis, you do start to, there's a trustworthiness in the market. So then when I'm calling that listing agent, being like, listen, we've got this. We're this close. Are you okay with letting everybody know and accepting an offer and understanding that this is in the works? And if I get that, we're gonna be okay with it. But we do. That's another one that we get pushed a lot. A couple times a week. Like, we're getting that.
Yeah. And I love that. I don't have a drive-through. So I am going to use that in my coaching, David. You get 5 stars because yes, I'm not a drive-through realtor or a drive-through coach or a drive-through lender. We're going to take the care and need with the white glove service to get this done right. I am going to use that metaphor with the drive-through again and again.
That's a good one. And the other thing too, you know, we've talked about this before on our calls, is the expectation then that you set going forward about how this is going to go. So again, if there's a specific situation that's, you know, so different, but on the normal, when you get somebody that calls and says, hey, I want to list my house tomorrow, and, you know, I expect you to be here tonight and stuff, just imagine what the whole transaction is going to be like.
It's going to be like, yes.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing is trying to get agents that refer business to understand that the sooner they can get that. Some people are a little hesitant to getting their client into a lender because they feel like they're being pushy. But the reality is the drive-through scenario, that's a good point. We can do it. I mean, a lender can go through and get a pre-qualification pretty quickly. That's not gonna be a true pre-approval, right? If you want that true pre-approval and understanding and teaching the wisdom of, let us go ahead and get it all the way through underwriting. Then like there are no surprises unless they quit their job or get a credit card halfway through the process.
And that, I will tell you, the lenders that go all the way through underwriting for us, that puts us in the very best position for writing offers. I mean, and it makes so much sense because, well, you know, if they've gotten you everything that you need while we're out shopping, you can do that, right? It's like both are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
That's just the ideal situation.
Oh, and can I get a pedestal on that just real quick?
Of course.
Agents that are listening and watching. The cost of doing a loan, the pre-qualification cost that a lender goes through to get a loan through pre-qualification. We're talking verifications, AUS runs, credit pulls, credit what ifs, all of these things. It's not hundreds, it's thousands of dollars.
I did not know that.
If we could get realtors to understand and be a little bit more strong-armed when they have a client, that they have had a lender who is willing to put that money on the line for a borrower, make sure that they don't go and shop around at the very last minute. Like that is the worst. We're all going to be pretty darn competitive when it comes to rate, and using us for that, and then going to an online lender who's giving you a half cut rate and doing absolutely crud service. Every realtor out there, I know you feel this, right? Mm-hmm. Just understand that it's not just a matter of being nice. If you do that enough to a lender, they can't afford to do upfront underwriting. It's expensive. It is. And with margins being so tight, I don't know if you guys know, the margins in the mortgage market every year have gotten tighter and tighter. And it's to the point where last year, most lenders were actually paying money to get loans closed with the hopes that we'd refinance it there in the future. Like that's how bad it was. So understanding that we're trying to cut costs. So push loyalty. Tell them to pick their lender before they go through the full pre-approval process. That's huge. Yep. Shop around. We're totally, I'm not saying don't shop around for a rate. Do so. Just don't go all the way through underwriting and then give the middle finger after.
Right. And so, you know, so next time we can talk in more in depth about this, but you know, I know this, and I know this because of you, Charlotte, and other people. And I mean, and both of you ladies know that for a while I dated a lender, so I learned a lot through that process, right? And a lot of times they'd pick you, Charlotte, or the person I was dating, or whatever, and then they'd find like another online mortgage company that initially looked like they were cheaper. Yeah. But really, when it got close to the close and they got, you know, their closing statement, it wasn't cheaper. And then it was actually more money. And then they'd call that person I was dating back again. Yeah. Right. Because, they don't know how to read the whole process.
Right.
There's lots of ways to hiding fees. And
but it comes out eventually.
A lot of it. Yeah, they've eliminated a lot of it, but there are lenders that will look really, really, really cheap until they lock your rate, and then suddenly it's not the same.
Then all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute, you know, my loans actually was $100 cheaper with the other person, and then they're calling the other person back again. So this is a whole nother topic, but
you go online. So I always tell people, like, if you go online and search Google, what is the 30-year national average right now for a 740 credit score, right? So what's the national average? And it's going to give you the national average. And it's normally slightly higher than what you're going to get from most of your lenders. If you are 2% lower than the national average, they're lying. Like, I don't know what else to say. It's not, if it's too good to be true, it's too good
to be true.
Yeah. You can get that. It's just going to cost you an arm and a leg. So I always tell people, like, listen, just look, the national average is right here. And yes, you might get here, but if it's there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Be there. I learned something a couple of years ago, and you can speak to this, Charlotte. I had I was doing some quick stuff with houses and such. And so I took an equity line out on, or a refinance out on a house to pull some cash out to do something else with, then put the house up on the market, the one that I did the refi or the cash out on. And my lender called me and he says, Karen, did you know that if you refinance this or sell this too soon, I have to pay back the money that I got for your loan? And oh my gosh, I felt terrible because all I was doing is I was going down this trajectory, saw a squirrel run by, so I chased it, refinanced. I did this whole thing that I wanted to do. And so anyways, I was close enough to the time frame that we just extended the escrow, so it didn't happen. But about a year ago, when there was that term out there, what was it? Date the rate, marry the house. I thought, oh, every lender is probably like sick to their stomach over that thought, right?
Just keep it for 6 months. Date the rate for 6 months. Make sure
6
it's
months, right?
And then you dump it.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. That I had just learned that. Does that happen often?
When rates go down, yes. So a couple of things. One, if you loved your lender, guys, if you loved your lender and you don't want to mess them over, go back to them for the refinance. If it's before 6 months, because no, we're not going to get paid twice, but at least we didn't lose our commissions, because if you go back to the same company, it's a little better. Now, there are some loans you can't even refinance for a couple of months to get the good rate. So you want to wait. But yes, it happens. For my team, I would say we get an EPD, an early payoff. EPO, sorry, EPD is early payment default, which is also not good. But an EPO, we probably get one a month, probably, that's coming in. That's for the whole team, not per person. I'd say every mortgage loan officer might get 2 or 3 a year. And it's painful, but it's more painful for the company. There's a reason the company is charging back that commission. It's because we lost more than just that commission.
Yes,
the costs and the penalties that we took when that loan gets paid off early. And it cannot, just so you know, somebody was like, well, I'll just pay it down to $100. No, that doesn't work. If you pay off more than a certain percentage, your loan officer is probably going to feel the pain of that. So wait, most companies at 6 months, ask your loan officer if the rates, here's the deal. If the rates something happened catastrophically and tomorrow the rates went to 4%, every single one of my clients is going to want to refinance, and I'm going to do it. We're going to do it. Just go back to the loan officer that you love.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah. But that is a good lesson. Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to share my story just because I love this group of people, and it's outside the real estate industry. So this is so I coach a roofing company. So you got the visualization around this is like, his roofers, big burly group of men, right, that hop on roofs, right? And I'm coaching them, which I love. It is just so much fun, and they've never been coached before. So you got to think about this, right? So this is roofers thinking, what the heck is this lady going to teach me, right? So that's pretty much the attitude around the table, because we had our first group coach call, because I've been coaching the owner for quite a long time, but now we've got the whole team in on it. And so this big burly group of men are around the table, and I say to them, and they've never had the mindset that they own their own business. Mm-hmm. It's because so I gave them the story of, if you're a broker and you have realtors, right? The broker's not going to feed the realtors all their business, nor does the owner of the roofing company feed them all their business. They've got to find business too. Friends, family, referrals, underwriters, right? No, again, coaching's not that different from industry to industry when it comes to the business coaching piece. So you could see their eyes get bigger and bigger. And so then this is my favorite question, and it was so powerful for them. I said, and when you look back at the last week or two and how you did with growing your own business, right? Finding your own roofs, right? Would you hire yourself or fire yourself? And it was amazing, the aha moment from these big group of macho men thinking, yeah, I'd get fired.
Right. Yeah. That lunch break was really long last week, right?
But they were so open. I mean, it was really wonderful because then it was like, okay, now let's roll up our sleeves and see what are your tactics every week to find some more roofs. Because sure, the owner's going to feed you some, but not all of them, right? So a team leader in any business is going to maybe feed you some leads, but not your entire business. Right. So I'm going to throw that out to everybody listening. Would you get hired or fired when you're growing your business and not working in it, right? Working on your business, growing your business, lead generating, marketing, and sales. Would you get hired or fired? Yeah.
It's always a great question. Every day. It's a great question. Right?
And no perfection expected. I would not hire myself every single day or every single week. But if I look back at 2024, the majority of my weeks would be as sure I'd hire you in a heartbeat. And there's maybe 4 or 5 weeks in the year where I'm like, ooh, performance improvement plan coming down the road. So how about you ladies? You could say any stories or shares around that question.
I think it's interesting as loan officers, we're most of the time the W-2, we're very much not self-employed, but we really have to run our business like it's our business. And I think most people in sales really need to take that look. So it's interesting, but I will tell you that it is very interesting, the people that are self-employed that also don't run their business like that. There's people that just kind of fly by the seat of their pants. How you doing? So it's very nice to see the people, like I can tell almost instantly, both with loan officers and real estate agents, the ones that are, it's the people that are looking for what can I do to get tomorrow's business, not just hustle today's, right?
Correct. Yes.
And it is very interesting that I can see typically if I'm having a lunch date, probably within the first 15 minutes, I can tell, like, all right, this person's probably, they might make it in the next 3 years. It's just going to be a rocky road, right? Versus that constant growth mindset. So it is something that we want to pick up on, and it doesn't matter what field they're in. I think we can sit down and probably hear it pretty quickly. Yeah. What words do you hear when you're talking, Tanya, to people that okay, they're thinking about working on their business?
Well, it's the same thing. I can usually tell within the first 15 minutes of a workshop or a complimentary coach call when someone says, I love real estate and I love showing homes, and that's all they say. I'm like, I don't want to burst their bubble. However, you know me, Karen and Charlotte, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. It's not build it and they will come.
No.
Right. And so if their attitude is build it and they will come, hey, I love to show homes, I'm going to be a great realtor. I'm like, oh, do they have a long road ahead of them?
Yeah. We might want to do some planning just a little bit. Dawn just jumped on, and I know that one of the things that she does with her team is she sat down and was like, okay, what are you going to do to work on your business? Yeah. And I just think that having a leader, Karen, I know you probably do this, having a leader that we all get squirreled, and especially the people that are, the busier they are, the harder it is to really think about that. Yeah. But if I can just give a shout out to all the real estate leaders, the team leads that know that they're going to be squirreled and going in a million different directions, and bring them back to that. What are you doing to work on your business? I feel like that. I just hats off to all of the leaders out there that do that, because it means a lot.
And I know Karen's going to agree. And Karen, I want you to have a turn. And again, when I coach people, and I coach and train. So when I'm training somebody how to duplicate a listing. So for every listing, my expectation is they get another piece of business, 1 or 2 from that listing. And the ones that are taking notes, and then they send them to me, and the ones that have it on their screensaver or they laminate it and put it next, I know they're going to make it, right? I can see it. And then the ones that ask me that question time and time and time again, I'm not giving up on them. I'm not, and I'm not judging, but their speed is their speed. And this one's going to be the slow road to China speed.
Right.
Yeah. So go ahead, Karen, your turn.
I was just going to say, I see it, on different workshops that we have and team meetings that we have and such. Same thing. The people that are taking notes, are writing stuff down. And then, there's someone else that's just very excited about everything and they're engaged and all of that. And I just know for a fact, 48 hours later, they're not going to remember a thing that they were supposed to do. And yeah, and I say supposed to do. It's their business, but if they want to have the results that they say they want to have, it's like, here's your roadmap. Use it, follow it, read it.
It's the execute piece.
It is. It is.
And I love what David said, daily bricks. And I like that. Like literally have a brick on your desk and move it from one side to the other. Did you move your brick that day? Because if you didn't, we gotta get back to moving just a little. And it could be small things. It doesn't have to be all big things.
Right.
I'm pushing my team right now to do some social media. And as much as I do social media, my team doesn't love social media. Come on.
Well, and if that's not a brick they want, they need another brick, right? So,
yes,
right.
that's right.
So if
That's
social
right.
media is not the pond they want to fish in, I'm okay with that. That's my Move the Needle workshop. You don't have to have that brick, but you got to pick another one.
There's got to be a brick, right?
There has to be a brick.
Something, something consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like I know with Karen and her business, she has a social media presence, and it's a good social media presence, but it's not her major pond, right? Mm-hmm. Charlotte, social media is a pretty big pond for you.
Yeah, it's not my major, but it is I would say it's one of my, you've got your 3 to 4 legs, and I'd say it's one of my legs for sure.
Sure. Yes. And so again, there's no right or wrong. I know we're going longer than normal, but with Ruthie hopping on, I want to ask Ruthie a question if you're still here. So if you answer, great. If you don't, it's okay. But this is a learning lesson that I know we've all learned, and especially Karen. The more homes you close, or after every home you close, Ruthie, because I want to say Ruthie's averaging about 5 a month right now. Do you get recruited and heavily recruited after every close? Or maybe it's different in Massachusetts than it is in California. But I know every time somebody in California closes a home, within hours, they're getting a gazillion texts from people recruiting them to another brokerage. So I'm curious, Ruthie, being in Massachusetts, if that's the case. Or same thing with Rachel or Teresa or Taylor. How often do you get recruited? I'm kind of swirling, but it made me think of it because we've got Charlotte who recruits, Karen recruits. So I'm curious.
Being recruited all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, Ruthie, if you're still on, or if you don't want to answer, that's okay too. But and you can even answer it in the private Facebook group, because I know I'd love Karen and I to learn more about recruiting in other states. I just know what happens in California.
Yeah.
That all bets are off once you close on a home.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ruthie's saying, I don't find that I am getting recruited much. And I am so surprised with closing 5 a month.
Yeah, and I don't think in my market, I don't think it's like that. I don't think that the realtors are getting called immediately after a closing. The movers and shakers, the ones that are in the top and people can see, are constantly, I'm sure every broker in the area is calling and talking to them. But I don't think it's like hey, you closed a loan or you closed a transaction.
Yeah. And Ruthie says, yes, we do. So maybe it's a West Coast thing. I don't know, because she's in Washington State. Yeah.
Well, there's software that you can subscribe to. So as a lender, we do this. I know, Karen, if I was following you, I would know within about 24 hours if you had closed a transaction. So maybe it's that the West Coast, that software, that subscription has been sold more into the real estate brokers and the markets that I'm in. I don't know that any, now that I've said that here on this live, all of my real estate brokers are gonna be like, Charlotte, can you get me in that?
No, the cadence is unbelievable. I mean, literally closing, here comes the call. My favorite one is when they ask me if I'm happy with Rock and Associates. And I'm like, well, yes, actually I am.
Really? Yeah. And if not, I can change it.
Well, there you go. So there is software out there. Ruthie says, I get calls from ADT after every transaction. So there you go. Yeah.
And that software is nationwide. There's a couple, there's MMI, there's list reports. There's a couple of things that you can subscribe to a certain person. And as soon as that record hits, it lets you know that it's there. It tells you the details too, like where the house was. It gives you all the info.
Interesting. All right. So so we'll be here again next month. Are we doing December, ladies? Or are we taking a month off? I don't know if I decided.
I don't know that we have it on our calendar, but I'm open to it.
Okay, well, let's just have a Christmas celebration one.
Love it.
Okay, let's just have fun. We'll have our Christmas hats on or whatever we want. I'll put my Grinch hat on. Okay, so we will have one in December. So on a close, any last minute advice or ahas or lessons or stories around finishing 2024 strong?
I have a big personal goal. Can I share my big personal goal?
Please.
People on here could do it. I've started really taking time to do the presentations and doing seminars. And so my big goal is to get at least 10 booked for either the end of this year or next year before the end of the year. So I've been doing a big push, and my team has been helping me and supporting me, which is awesome. So that's great. So it's a lot of fun. But at some point, this all was brought on as a leader, and I know, Karen, you can feel this, it almost feels like you're being selfish when you go to work on yourself. Like, I feel selfish for doing this. But you know what? If I'm going to move my needle, I've got to spend a little bit of time on myself, and I've got to promote myself a little bit, because this is something that I want to do. So I swallowed that pill, and I'm like, I'm going to work on myself, and I'm going to ask my team to work on me, because I can be selfish a little bit. They've been fantastic to do it. But that's my goal for the end of the year, is to book some presentations.
Well, it's leading by example and showing that you're worthy, and that you set a goal, then you're going to do the tactics. So the tactics to get those presentations, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to flip the narrative on getting rid of the selfish piece, and that you're leading by example and you're showing how tactics work.
That's right. And they do.
Right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep. And so when we hang up and this starts to go to the social media sites, Charlotte, I'm going to encourage you to post your one pager.
Yeah.
Yep. I want you to on that. So post it, and we'll share it.
It's a different hat, but it goes along with the hats, right?
It's a sub hat.
It's a sub hat.
Sub hat. All right, Karen, you're in the hot seat. How about you? Finishing strong? Any advice, stories, and you want to share a goal? Anything?
I don't necessarily have any advice. I will say it was kind of fun to finish up writing my goals for 2025. And then we got into the gratitude plays, because that's what we're doing in November and December. And then I realized, oh, wait, I can actually start doing some things for 25 already. So I'm working on some 1031 exchange seminars. We're going to hit the ground really hard in January, working with investors and helping to train agents about that. So any agents that are listening right now, make sure you let me know that you want to be engaged with that. It's going to be great.
Okay, so then I'm going to encourage you, because I never can take my coach hat off. So I'm encouraging you, Karen, to share that information once this gets blasted. So put it in the comments and send it to Charlotte.
Yeah,
sure.
Because she knows a ton of realtors.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. All right. And anybody listening, please, put it out in the universe. Please don't keep your goals and then your tactics, and then obviously your calendar, right? Those goals, right? Tactics, calendar it, share them, get accountability. Do not keep them in your head. That is not a safe space. That's a saboteur space.
Someone told me that our brain is not for keeping ideas, it's for creating them. So we have to put them on paper, and then that way we can create more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to give you one last action step. Will you post that last sentence, Karen, in the comments?
Yes.
Because it is crucial that we get out of the closet with our goals and what we want. It has to go out in the universe. It needs to go out on paper. It needs to be on our whiteboards at home, and in our community, so that we do get the support. So Charlotte, put your one pager. I love it. Put it out there, send it to Karen, put it in this, we'll share it. Karen, same thing with you. And you guys are phenomenal. I can't express enough gratitude to Karen and Charlotte for supporting me in my workshops and all that kind of stuff. So yay for this community. It is on a scale of 1 to 10, a 10. Yeah. And you know me, I don't give 10s. But it is, right? And it's like, that's what we are here for each other. I mean, it's just, And speaking of my speaking engagement in Toronto, it is a business growth seminar. So it's not just a real estate seminar, but it is for business growth. I am working on getting everybody I know, especially my clients, a discount to go.
Awesome.
So I will start posting that out there. Yeah.
Very fun.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there.
Yeah. Happy
Yeah. See
Thanksgiving.
you in
This was
December.
fun.
Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye.